Creator's Child presents the Mehrangarh Fort through Aura Masters' eyes. Come with us to the Mehrangarh Fort, Jodhpur. Borrow our Aura Masters' eyes, and you will see deep into the mysteries, the glories, the terrors, and you will see into the very nature of existence. You are in conversation with spiritual visionaries Tarun and Celia Cherian, co-founders Creator's Child and Devadara Healing. The Mehrangarh Fort, Jodhpur, stands tall on a megaton rock in the Aravalis. It is huge, spread across 1,200 acres, or is it more? For its battlements spread miles. The hills speak. Shall we listen? Even as we're reaching the fort, the hill itself is spilling its secrets. And this is the first Aura secret that is later confirmed. For us, we use our intuitive senses. We see flame, lava, blazing, and then something like two tectonic forces coming and smashing against each other. And later, as we read, we realize that that is precisely what happened. For the Aravalis themselves, igneous rock, but formed by two massive continental masses smashing together and rising up. And then later we get an image of a meteor flashing over the hill and landing a distance away. Could it be a reference to the Ramgarh crater a few hundred kilometers away? No, it feels much closer. Could it be the mysterious crash that hit in the 12th century and an area about 12 kilometers away from the fort, which still has an unusual degree of radioactive dust? Is it a meteor? A UFO? Auras reveal prehistoric beasts. As we were driving through the hills towards the fort, a thought struck us. But before the Rathors, before mankind itself, what kind of creatures lived in Rajasthan? And as we began to push our intuition, we saw something that really startled us. We saw that, in fact, there was some creature, a very crocodile-like heavy creature moving through marshy, watery land. How could it be? And then later reading showed us that indeed Tyrannosaurus indicus lived there, a kind of a huge crocodile-like dinosaur. And then intuition showed us more, a fierce Tyrannosaurus-like creature coming and ripping at us. And there were indeed creatures like that, Rahilosaurs, Indiosaurs, that were massive predators. And then as intuition went further, we could see a herd of what looked like elephants, but they were more. They were massive. And then reading tells us that stegodons populated the plains of North India. As Celia was intuiting, she came to eras when humans were around, and she saw leopards. And one leopard was quite cross with us humans, saying that its tribe had been evacuated from the hill. But some birds chirped up and said, "No, but we still live there." The next aura secret, shaman versus guru. Now to the question, who lived on the Mehrangarh Fort Hill before it was taken over by the Rathod dynasty? Auras give us a very unusual insight. Our aura eyes show a man walking. He's loved by birds and the animals. He seems to own the hill and the land. Strange, but that is exactly what history says. That there was a man, a sage, Chira Nath, who was a bird sage, loved by birds, and obviously by the people around in that area. And so when the Rathors came to claim the hill for themselves, he said no. So what did they do? Did they abandon their plans to take the hill? A stronghold with a clearly strong vantage point from which they could rule and command an empire? Well, they came up with an extraordinary solution. Fighting fire with fire and spirituality with spirituality. They asked another deep spiritual being, Kadni Mata, to come and to command the bird sage to move. When she arrived, bristling with energy and power, he realized he had met his match, and the bird sage left unwillingly, but not without leaving a terrible curse. The Mehrangarh area would face drought. That, as we all know, would be the death sentence. A desert. So what could they do? The answer will shock you as it shocked us. Blood sacrifice. But not just some innocent shanghaied and dragged there and his head cut off. They had to choose someone who would be a willing sacrifice. And who would be a willing sacrifice? Raja Meghwal offered to be a sacrifice. And he was sacrificed, and his body, and some say his spirit, lies at the very foundations of the Mehrangarh Fort. Even today, his family is taken care of by the Rathors. Unbelievable, but very true. a deep sense of power as we enter. The ramparts of the fort make our knees knock. You get a neck ache for your forever looking up. The road is steep, cobbled, high. And you can just imagine what a soldier or an enemy soldier would have felt if he dared to walk up, surrounded by tall walls bristling with muskets. The feel is pride and valor, and we can imagine the armies, their naval chakras, their solar plexus chakras blazing with energy and light. But as we come to the main gate, our hearts start hammering. The fort doors are huge and covered with spikes, deterring anyone from coming in a war elephant and trying to hammer the doors down. Now we come to the next aura secret. For just as we cross the doors, there's a tremendous feeling a chilling feeling, mixed with fierce rage and fierce pride. And we look to the right and we see a frieze of orange hands. One side of you wants to quip, cool decor, right? But the other side, your mouth is sealed shut. For you realize that those are the hands of women, of queens who've committed Sati, Johar. And we can sense the terrifying pride, power, and determination that went into such an act. Our crown chakras tingle as we go deeper into the fort. And as we sense what it would have been like in medieval times, the pomp, the grandeur, the honor, the dynastic pride hammering at you from all sides. And as we walk in, we enter into a world of lavish luxury. We walk to the darbars and then enter into the private bedchambers of the king. And shimmering in that space, glittering with light and mirrors, we can still see the sensual excesses, the cybaritic joys. Succubii, Gandharva still float there in that space. Still bless, still tease, still take the mind on great journeys. But it is easy to see kings and queens through our eyes. Just people with a lot of wealth and money having a blast. But we see and we sense something much, much more. For that earlier night when we, in our Haveli, looked up at the beautifully lit Mehrangarh Fort, up there in the skies, we sensed the spirit of a queen. We could sense her looking down with a tremendous maternal feeling. a sense of what can I do for my people. And later research says that she actually helped build a stepwell, one which is beautifully carved and still very much alive. And so as we walk the streets of the Mehrangarh Fort is not just a symbol of another time of glorious history, but of another kind of human being. Thank you for watching, sharing, and soaring with God.